not grounded in his word. See, it's Christ who I preach plus. You cannot unplug us. From his love, full of tender mercy and grace, he saved us, he changed us. We were once rebellious, he bailed us from the sin that dwells within, set free by him. No longer prisoners of sin, we have his word as a seed in us, redeemed, rebuilt, refilled, resealed. Now we're not of this world like we ride on spaceships. With him as the captain with no missing eye. As the sheep, we follow him, no one gets left behind. We are right up front, sons of adoptions, we are not orphans. It's a done deal, we are not taking any other offers. See, he resided in the heavens, but since we fell in sin, he came to be a ransom for all humanity. Imagine this humility he answered when his father called to come and be a sacrifice once and for all. Read Philippians 2, verse 5 up to 11. He didn't see it robbery to be equal with God. He made himself no reputation and became like us man, obedient to the point of death, even of the cross. He's the lamb that was slain but defeated the grave. The lion that was raised and is worthy of praise, the true king, and he reigns. Only Jesus who saves, our sins he erased. Now his name we proclaim. See, he's the lamb that was slain but defeated the grave. The lion that was raised and is worthy of praise, the true king, and he reigns. Only Jesus who saves. Our sins he erased. Now his name we proclaim. See, in the middle of sin is I. But God dealt with sin, so it's no longer I who lives, but Christ. To be born twice is a must. The old me passed, but it's he who wrote the test on the cross and got an A+. He is Alpha and Omega. He caused me to be righteous. This alone is major, only because he's gracious. He freed us from the enemy, defeated his arm. Now we want as his ligaments know we are the body of Christ. We are renewed minds, licking the good news lines, refusing to use lies as rhymes to entice the mind that are mind and a kind of hype on the mic. We preach Christ. God is just, Jesus justified sinners plus. It's a past tense pact equivalent to forgiveness. A covenant act preeminent to his benevolence, willingness, giving us deliverance, sustenance. We are no more slaves of sins. We're free from the imprisonment. Jesus.
Enkosi kakhulu kwindawo ezikuzo sicela sithobe inhloko sifumane ilizwi lomthandazo. Ngibeba enhle yasezinhlangeni. Ngonyamandini yesizwe sakwaYuda. Nali ke Nkosi ibandla lakho lithe xonxosholo oku kwexhama ebelixinwa zizinja. Lona ke Thixo libandla lixinwa into yimbi lengaxinwa ziziyunguma zelokishi. Lilapha ke somandla lithe tyaba lijonge esibingelelweni ukuze ilizwi lakho libe impendulo kwimibuzo yabantu. Kwiziqenga Nkosi ezidlulileyo sikuvile uthetha Nkosi kunye nathi umane ugibisela iziqenga neziqebeyi ufike Nkosi emva kwerhaladiya. Nangeli ke somandla ixesha lungisa ukuva kwethu lungise Nkosi inhliziyo lungise Nkosi ingqondo kuze kuthi Nkosi le ntetho ezawuthethwa Nkosi ifumane indawo zokuhlala ize Nkosi sikwazi ukuyenza kubomi bethu bemihla ngemihla. Lo ngumnqweno ke nomthandazo wethu ngoKristu Nkosi. Amen.
Maranatha Masala. Inkosi yethu yeza. Ngolhlobo nami ndiyazibulisela ebandleni ngelihle igama likaYesu Kristu inkosi yethu. Amen. It's nice to be here. Kumnandi ukuba lapha. All right, let me firstly formally introduce myself for the sake of those abangandaziyo. Ndingu Iko igama lam wakwaPhakade, well married to Ifane wakwaPhakade. Yes, I'm originally from Upper East London. I am a counselor by profession. So namhlanje I've been asked to speak about mental health, but kwi mental health leyo banike bathi mandithethe nge-emotional intelligence. Sekuthethwe kakhulu nge-mental health throughout the weekend, and we have been triggered. Especially today when Pastor Blosse spoke to us, and I saw so many young people coming to the front, bonzakele, because of the experiences that they've gone through, because of the challenges that they've been facing, and they are broken. And because you have been triggered today, it is now then a challenge for you, what are you going to do about it? As soon as you leave this space this weekend, What are you going to do about it? What action are you going to take? We all need counseling. Ikhona le nto siyibiza nge-counseling, whereby you go to a professional and you speak to them about yonke into that you're feeling and experiencing. Speak to someone. Speak to a professional. If you don't want to speak to a professional, we've got our pastors. You can go and speak to a pastor about anything and everything that you're going through. But before I carry on, for those that are in East London, ne, we have got intervention for counseling, right? There's a place called Southernwood. Ikhona indawo that is called Emastete. They offer free counseling for anyone, right? If you want to send your children, you can also send your children, because they also offer what we call a child therapy, ne? Child play therapy, all right? Then for those who are not residing in East London, we've also got South African Depression and Anxiety Group that is based in Johannesburg. Ne? So what happens is that you can call. So they offer e-counseling over the phone. I can gladly give you guys the number. If you cannot afford to go to a clinical psychologist, then you can call this number for free, and you will be speaking to a qualified psychologist over the phone. So the number, South African Depression and Anxiety Group, is 0800 567 567. Yeah? And then we also have another one that is in Southernwood as well, the one that I work for, Ibumbi Ngomso. The number is 0800 555 558. Zonke ezindawo, they offer free counseling. So if you cannot afford to go and pay a psychologist, then here is a free intervention. In Southernwood, Mastete. We've got Bumbi Ngomso also in Southernwood. They're also available Mdantsane, Emakiwan. Ne? Or you can call SADAG, which is the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, on 0800 567 567. Sihamba sonke ne? All right. Okay, before ndiqhubekeke, umfundisi spoke a lot about trauma and the bad experiences that we've all gone through. Ne? We've all been affected by grief one way or the other. Some of us have been affected by childhood traumas that we've experienced, and we have not really explored eza issues eziana, which is why some of them will then come up at this age. And you will ask yourself, I'm working, I've got a stable job, I've got a house, I've got this. But because there is things that were not yet discovered or not yet spoken about, they will then arise later on in adulthood and zivel. Ne? So that is me trying to also encourage you, go and seek counseling. All right. Dingumdwe illustrations. I love illustrations. Ne? So I always make this illustration, especially when I speak to my grief clients, grief clients especially. Ne? So let's use our imagination, because I don't have the box right now. Let's think of a box. Ne? Say one box, right? And we take a beach ball. Can you see how big a beach ball is? And we try to fit it inside that box. And once we've tried to fit it in, let's try shaking that box. Ne? We can tell Luguti that it doesn't have much space to move around, right? So if we remove that beach ball and we put a tennis ball inside that box, and we then try to shake that box, siyabona ukuthi the tennis ball is able to move around, ne? And we also look at the fact that the time that it will take to move from the first corner to the other corner, ne? There is a reaction time over there, all right? So I want us to bring it back to our emotions. When something has just happened to you, when you have just lost a loved one, when you've just lost your job, it becomes this huge thing. And it's all you think about day in and day out, ne? But as time progresses and as time goes on, and as you've seek e-counseling and you've been speaking to someone, that ball starts to deflate. It starts to go down. Ne? Just like that tennis ball, as you're trying to shake it, right? It's still going to hit the corners. But it's not going to hit the corners as much as it would when it was a huge ball, right? Okay, so same applies with our emotions as well. When we start taking action about our experiences, it's not to say that you are not going to be triggered, ne? But how you respond to the trigger will be different to when you had, when the issue has just started. Are we together? So it does take time. Same applies with grief. You've just lost your loved one. You're not going to heal today. You're not going to heal tomorrow. You might not even heal next year even, but it's going to take time. What I'm trying to say is that it is possible. Healing is possible. I don't want us to think in Dogbana just because we've experienced certain things, we are unable to heal, we are unable to move on with our lives. It is possible. And the best thing about us is that Umfundisi touched on it earlier, and he said that when the three Hebrew boys, he mentioned the three Hebrew boys, and I love the three Hebrew boys. He mentions the three Hebrew boys and he says, when they were thrown in the fire, they were not harmed. Ne? They were not harmed. That fire was supposed to harm them, but it did not harm them. And whenever I think of that story in the Bible, my husband's sermon always comes up. I'm sorry. So my husband's sermon always comes up, and this is how he likes preaching this part. He says, when the three Hebrew boys were thrown into the fire, God saw what was going on. And he looked around and he had to see who is going to go and save my children in that fire. And he goes on to say that when God looked at his angels that were surrounding him, he looked at the eighth winged angel and he said, how long is it going to take you to go into that fire and save my children? And then the eighth winged angel says, it will only take me about 3 minutes. And he says, sit down, you're going to be too late. He then looks at the fourth winged angel and asks him, how long is it going to take you to go into that fire and save my children? And then the fourth winged angel answers and says, it will take me only but a minute. And then God says, sit down, you are already going to be too late. He then looks at the second winged angel and asks him, how long is it going to take you to go into that fire and save my children? And the angel responds, it will only take me but a split second. And God says, sit down, you're going to be too late. And then he goes on and says that then God had to look within himself and said to his son, and he looked at his son and said, how long is it going to take you to go inside and save my children? And then his son answers and says, relax, I'm already there. What I'm trying to bring to you is that the challenges that we go through and the experiences that we go through, we are not going through them alone. We go through them, but our God is already there waiting for us. So we are not going to be burned by anything that we are encountering, all right? So that's why I'm trying to bring a bit of hope to you that it is possible. Healing is possible, especially knowing that we've got God on our side. All right. I've been tasked to speak about emotional intelligence. Ne? That was just a detour. That was just a detour. You know how preachers be like, that was just a detour. All right. So I'm going to be speaking to you about emotional intelligence. We are aware of IQ. We know what IQ is, right? And that it can be tested. All right. So because we've got IQ, then we also have what we call EQ, which is the emotional intelligence. Yeah? Okay. All right. So we have what we call emotional intelligence. Now, before we speak about it, I want us to first get an understanding of what it is. What are we talking about when we're talking about emotional intelligence? Are we really emotionally intelligent? Do we really know our emotions? So, emotional intelligence is the ability to understand, use, and manage your emotions in positive ways. I'm going to stop there. You need to have the ability to understand, number one. Number two, be able to use these emotions and manage your emotions in positive ways. Ne? To relieve stress, to communicate effectively, to empathize with others, overcome and diffuse a conflict. All right? So that is the first definition of what emotional intelligence is. The second one says that EQ is described as the ability or the capacity, the skill or self-perceived ability to be able to, number one, identify. We're still talking about emotions there. Identify your emotions, establish them, recognize them. 2, assess, evaluate, manage your emotions, not just your emotions, but also emotions of other people. Are we still together? All right. So basically, we are talking about your emotions. You need to understand them. You need to know them. You need to know how to use them. You need to know how to manage them. Not only for yourself, but also for those that are around you. Because remember, your emotions not only affect you, but they also affect who? Your surroundings. Okay? Okay. So when we're talking about emotional intelligence, we've got these 5 attributes that we talk about. Self-awareness, self-regulation, self-motivation, social awareness, and social skills. So those are the 5 attributes that we look at masithetha nge-EQ. Ne? So siqale nge-self-awareness, very self-explanatory. Being self-aware of yourself. Ne? Self-awareness. All right. So it is basically the capacity to recognize and understand your emotions and how your actions and moods can affect other people. So you need wena to understand your emotions, number one. Know how they're going to be affecting other people around you. Siphila nabantu on a daily basis, at work, at home. So when you are moody, please understand that you are going to be affecting the other person negatively. It's not just about you, but it's about the person that you are living with. It's the people that you are living with. So you always need to have that at the back of your mind, that if you are reacting to something, remember that this is not just about you, but also the people that you are working with or dealing with. You know how you feel and why. Ne? So self-awareness, you need to be able to know, why am I feeling like this? And how am I feeling? And most of us, we tend to forget the basic emotions and the basic feelings, and we want to run away from them, and we want to go straight and say, I've got depression. What if you're just sad? What if you're just frustrated? What if you're just, you're angry? I hear people saying, you ndine depression jonga, imali yami ayingenanga, izithonga zami akhange zitsho. And then azikhala izithonga, gone depression, umuntu use-Hemingway's. That is not depression. You need to be able to understand and distinguish between emotions. Are you frustrated? Are you angry? Are you sad? What's going on exactly? Let's go back to the basics. Ne? Let's not want to go with the flow just because now there's this depression thing going on. There's this anxiety thing going on. Yes, it's real. And I feel it's very offensive when you say that you are depressed, whereas you are not even clinically diagnosed with depression. There are people who are struggling with depression, and then yet here we are, depression. It does not make sense. Let's shy away from that. Let's start getting used to our emotions, the basics. I'm happy. It's good to be happy. I'm sad. Be in touch. Know your emotions. All right. Okay, self-awareness. Recognize your emotions and their effects, the effects on other people. So recognize your emotions. If you said, how is it affecting the other person? If you're angry, how is it then also affecting the other person? Also, when you are self-aware, you know your strengths, you know your limitations. You have self-confidence, and you know your self-worth and your capabilities. Okay. Masambenke, siya ku self-regulation. Self-regulation ke yena, ndifuna sekulanda ndi-highlight bold, it is being aware of how one's actions affect others. And then you take ownership of those actions. So now we're talking about accountability, something that we run away from. So you need to be aware of actions zakho, how they're going to be affecting abanye abantu ophilisana nabo. Ne? Let me make an example. I made an example there about apology, and I like making this example. In Dogba, we've got this tendency when you've done something wrong to someone, and they come to you and say, andithandanga into ethile ke uyenzileyo. You say, no, I'm sorry, man, you finish a lot hlobo. That's not an apology. You are not taking accountability of what you've done. When you're apologizing, you need to say, I'm sorry for making you feel the way you are feeling. I acknowledge that I've put you in this position oba ufilishe the way you are feeling, and therefore I take accountability and I'm sorry. Not into yoba uthi hayi uxolo into asekuba uziva kanjalo. But that's not an apology. That is not an apology. You're not sincere, you're not authentic in making that apology. If I know, even with our relationships, when you are communicating or you're talking with your partner saying, indlela apologizing ayingathi awukayichazi uba yintoni kanye kanye ucelela uxolo. Ngaske ndiyazi. Because there's a tendency of uba hayi uxolo ke uxolisela ntoni? What are you apologizing for? Are you acknowledging that you've done something wrong to me? So we need to take accountability, all right? Okay. Self-regulation also involves self-control. You have full control and you are able to manage disruptive emotions and impulses. Ne? Singabantu masikukhona lanta athi hayi nandu kuthani nathi ugqwashi mani mamgqwashi ngiphuma silwe. Ne? Bakhona abantu who take pride in being called ophuma silwe, of which that's not something we should be taking pride in. So when you emotionally okay, self-regulation, it falls part of self-regulation that you need to be who is able to manage as our impulsive emotions. Avoid the feeling uba ubani uthini ngam asoze nothi makasa phansi kumgogo. No. Stop, think and reflect before you go to the person. Okay, self-motivation and self-management. This is basically referring to you being able to handling your stressful moments in effective ways so that they don't damage you. Ne? How you handle your stressful moments and how in what effective ways are you using so that you don't end up being the person that is being damaged at the end of the day. Okay, we've mentioned controlling impulsive feelings. You need to be able to manage your emotions in healthy ways. Don't be destructive to you or to those that are around you. Take initiative, be optimistic. We lack optimism, ke abanye bethu of late. Let's try and be optimistic about life, about anything and everything that entails it. Okay, and then enye elandelayo, which is social skills. Ne? Because we're dealing with people every day, especially now, I deal with people on a daily basis, so I need to be able to interact well with people. That's something that I need to do. But I'm sure everyone else won't go to deal on a daily basis. So, considering a social skill, it falls under yonke and it falls under emotional intelligence. You need to be able to interact well with abanye abantu. Apply understanding of your own emotions as well as emotions of other people as well. Ne? It's very difficult to try and understand the emotion yomnye umuntu. But now you first need to understand your emotions before you're able to understand ezabanye emotions, okay? My favorite, effective communication. Oh, my husband runs away from this one. Effective communication. Nah? So what are we talking about? Like, what are we referring to when we're talking about effective communication? Ne? Are you listening to me as I'm talking to you attentively? No, that's point number one. I did my batul. Are you listening to me attentively? Jemba's theater, or if we're discussing something, ne? Are you listening to me attentively? Are you just listening to me to answer? Are you listening to understand what I'm trying to convey to you? Are you actually taking note of my non-verbal communication? Njengoba ndithetha into yoba zikhona izinto endizenzayo, zikhona izinto endizenza nalapha ebusweni. So i-emotion nayo masikhona phi apha ebusweni, and you can tell into yokubana ngaba hayi shem ikhona uyagowisha ke ngoku noba mhlawumbi you know sometimes you just sit like this uve ngomuntu obuza hayi kutheni kwenzeka ntoni wamorosed athi mamam why you morosed why uhlelo ne? So you're able to pick up on some things things that are non-verbal. Okay, effective communication is a destroyer of most relationships and marriages because thina asifuna ukumamela attentively. We always want to you're ready to respond. You are always ready to respond. You don't want to hear what the other person is trying to bring to you. Even the Bible says in Isaiah 1 verse 18, come now, let us reason together. Let us talk. You did not like a certain way that I did izinto. Talk to me. Nam ke ngoku amasin be defensive into yoba awuyathanda uyenza ke le nto wena. Qho, this is what you always do. We need to refrain from such things. This is us now trying to communicate effectively. All right, sihamba sonke ndithi guys? Okay. Sibe nayo ke lanto sibiza nge-social awareness okanye i-empathy, ne? Empathy, the ability to understand how others are feeling. Ungathi umfundisi bekhe wayithetha into apha into yobana xa kuswelekiwe hayi abazoniva noba kuswelekile ufika akava nto. That's not what they want to hear. You need to be empathetic towards that person. What are some of the words that you can use to that person so that you can comfort them, so that you can make them feel better about themselves? You need to be sensitive. Funeka ube ngumuntu osensitive. Now, this component of empathy helps us to be able to respond appropriately to other people and recognize their emotions. It's the example that I've already made. Because you are empathetic and you're sensitive to whatever that is going on, you are then able to react appropriately to this person. Uswelekelwe lo mntu, ne? So, njembe swelekelwe nje, now you're able to read i-emotion yakhe. You will then respond appropriately ngothini ngongxengxeza kunye naye. Not into yokuba nebe lena kutyiwa nina apha okwasifikile. Hayibo akuphungwa nakwaye kuphungwa. So we need to be able to understand not just only our emotions and also the emotions of other people as well. Okay? Hey, I'm being done. Okay. IT azonceda apha. Oh, all right, there we go. Let's understand our emotions. Okay, so sibonile masizivile ngaza attributes ezena that we look at when we're talking about emotional intelligence. So you need to be aware of yourself, how you react towards other people, ne? And also behavior, how it also affects them. I always make this example. Ukuthi kwa psychology, we've got this triangle that we use, ne? In Dokbana, when we are dealing with people and our daily lives and whatever. So at the top of a triangle, the triangle, it's got 3 corners, right? So at the top of that triangle, we've got the brain. And then at the bottom, as the settler, we've got your feelings and we've got your emotions. And then right at the end, we've got your behaviors and your action. Ne? So whatever that you think, it will affect the way that you are feeling. And whatever that you are feeling, it will definitely affect your behavior. Right? So let me make an example. What are you thinking of? Okay, I always make this example about myself. I get triggered, let's make an example. I get triggered about thinking about my brother's death. Ne? My brother passed away 2019. That's what I've been thinking about. How is that then going to affect my feelings and my emotions? Ndizaba sad, mosandit. Njambandi said, how is it then going to affect my behavior? I'm going to want to isolate. I'm going to want to be all alone, right? So that's how it works. We need to understand that whatever that you are thinking, it affects the way that you are feeling. And whatever that you are feeling will affect the way you behave. All right, let's try and understand our emotions. Sorry. So, it's very important that you need to have the ability to be able to express and control your emotions. Very important to express how you feel. Let people know how you are feeling. Don't keep quiet. Ne? If someone has done something to you that you don't feel comfortable with, talk to them. Tell them, I did not feel comfortable with A, B, C, and D. So express it, right? It's also important that you also need to be able to control your emotions. But, and as much as that is also important, ne? You need to be able to understand. You need to be able to interpret as well as respond to other people's emotions. So, how am I going to, how should I understand? I need to be able to understand her feelings, how she's feeling. Oh, and also, I need to be able to interpret indlela afilisha ngayo, and also I need to be able to respond to her emotions. So we've got 4 branches that we look into. And when we're trying to understand our emotions, the first one will be perceiving the emotion. The second one will then be reasoning with the emotions. Third will be understanding the emotions. And then lastly, managing those emotions. So considering a perception, okay, so it's about perceiving these emotions. So it is the first step to understanding emotions, that is to perceive them accurately. Am I reading her emotion accurately? So in many cases, this might involve, like I had mentioned before, non-verbal communication. So body language, facial expressions are very important. So I might be frowning, and njengoba ndifrawuna nje, I'm just sitting down and I'm frowning, there's a certain emotion that is being invoked there. So you need to try and understand, what is she going through? You're concerned, ne? So uyabona ukuthi lo muntu ufrownile, there's definitely something that's going on phayana. That is when you reach out to the person. So with that, you need to have the ability to accurately identify the feelings, ne? But you need to have the ability to clearly and directly communicate these emotions, right? So you need to speak about them. If you can't speak about them, then you can also we can also read them actually from facial expressions. Self-awareness, being aware of your own emotions and also how they occur. All right. The ability to become emotionally literate is very important. I've already touched on it, that we need to become emotionally literate about our emotions. We need to know our emotions. Usad namhlanje because you triggered, ne? Awukho depressed because ikhona into ekuthiwa yi-trigger. Into ekukhumbuza into yoba kanene wawukhe wehlelwa into ethile. So that is a trigger. Once you triggerishe, when you triggered ke ngoku, it invokes certain emotions kuwe. Ayithi loo nto une-depression namhlanje just because kwenzeke whatever yenzekileyo okanye ucinge loo nto and then that's it, ne? So we need to be in touch with our basic emotions. We need to learn and understand our basic emotions. Then we need to start reasoning with our emotions. Now, with our emotions, it is the ability to use your feelings to help you make decisions which are healthy for you and others. So when you feel low emotion, itile, ne? So as soon as you feel you've perceived the emotion, now you start reasoning with this emotion in Dogbana. What decision am I going to take that is going to be healthy for me and for those that are around me regarding my emotion? All right, so that is you now then reasoning. It is the ability to use your feelings constructively. Emotional intelligence, ne? We need to understand our emotions. The emotions that we perceive can carry a wide variety of meanings. So if someone is expressing anger emotion, so now you need to be able to observe that, must also be able to interpret that and help understand how those emotions can change from time to time. All right? So understand that there's a relationship between thoughts and feelings. There's the brain, there's the mind, there's the feeling, and also there's the behavior. So whatever that you are thinking will definitely influence or affect the way or behavior. Managing our emotions. Now, the ability to manage emotions is for personal and social growth. Ne? You will also grow personally and also socially as well. So you need to also have the ability to take responsibility for one's feelings and happiness. This is very important. Your happiness should not be lying with boyfriend yako or to your husband or to your spouse or whatever. Your happiness must lie within you. Do not depend on those that are around you to make you feel good or to make you feel happy. Depend on yourself. And if you cannot make yourself happy, then try and discover ukuthi yinoni le ikwenza lokubana ngaba ungonwabi. So that is also a call for a counseling session. Okay, masihambeni ke sichekishe into yobana why is it important for us to know okanye to know emotional intelligence. So as I have mentioned earlier that emotional intelligence, it affects your performance at school, it also affects your performance at work, right? So having a high emotional intelligence can help you to navigate through social complexities of the workplace as well as in your career. So of late, many companies, they use emotional intelligence tests before bakuqashe because they understand that in as much as technical ability is important, but also emotional intelligence is also as important so that you can be able to work with the people around in the workplace. All right? Okie dokie. How can it then affect us? So why is emotional intelligence important? It's also important because it can affect our physical health. Another thing that we undermine kakhulu is the power that our brain has apha kuthi. The brain is very powerful. So if you are not then able to manage your emotions, then this kind of basically means that you're probably not able to manage your stress either. Ne? So if you don't have stress management, that means emotional intelligence is not on par. So this will then result that it will result in serious health problems. So when as a person, you need to be able to control stress levels, because if you don't, these can increase the chances of having a high blood pressure. And with that, it will then suppress the immune system, increasing the chances of having a heart attack and a stroke. Whereas younger lento can be prevented by just improving your EQ, by learning how to manage stress. Can we see how important it is in your mental health and also emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence can also affect your mental health. So if you've got uncontrolled emotions and stress, these can affect have an effect on your mental health. If you've got unresolved emotions, if you've got unresolved things, some of us were triggered because we've got unresolved issues, right? So if asizilungise ezo zinto ezo, then it will have an effect on our mental health. We'll have okay, so it will increase your vulnerability to anxiety as well as depression. Okay, I'm just going real quickly because I'm running out of time. So, okay, so like I said, it's going to increase your chances of having anxiety as well as depression, right? So if you're unable to understand or manage your emotions, you will also have a challenge in forming strong relationships, which is creating another problem. Because now if you're not able to form strong relationships, then you'll be lonely and you'll be isolated, which is another issue of mental health, okay? Okay. It will also affect our relationships. We've been touching on that a lot. When you understand your emotions, if you know your emotions, you know how to use them, you understand them very well, you are also then able to control them. So you're also in a better position to be able to express them in your relationships. Talk about how you're feeling. Tell your partner exactly what it is that you're going through, how whatever behaviors that they've been doing, how they've been affecting you. So we spoke of communicating effectively and forming stronger bonds. That will help, in fact, form stronger bonds in our relationship. And then lastly, in conclusion, emotional intelligence, basically, it helps us to be able to know our emotions. We need to know our emotions. It helps us with relating with other people. It helps us with our relationships. So from today onwards, I want us to stop focusing our time and energy on negative emotions. I want us to start focusing on positive emotions, emotions that are going to make us feel good. Because when we start feeling good about ourselves, we will also have good relationships with people that we interact with. All right. We need to start learning techniques on how to manage our stresses and also how we react to various issues that we're going through. All right. I will stop there for today. So that is basically what emotional intelligence is all about. Us knowing about our emotions, understanding them, and then also being able to use them effectively with those that we are living with, especially in our relationships. Thank you so much. I hope it was clear and you could understand. Thank you. All right. Questions?
Inkosi kakhulu ngenxa yexesha eliqhatshwe yinja masesithobe inhloko ngomthandazo. Masesithandaza. Thixo mhle kangaka ohlala ekhaya ezulwini, singadlulisa ilizwi lombulelo enyangweni. Sibulela Nkosi ukwelulekwa ngesifundo ziphakame kangaka. Akwaba ke Nkosi singathi xa sifulathela le ndawo sibhekisa imibombo ngasemakhaya. Ingenkosi lomphako nalomthwalo singahamba nawo kodwa Nkosi supractice insuku nensuku kwimihla yethu ukuze sincede kuze Nkosi egqibeleni sikulungele nokuza kwakho kwesibili ngoYesu siyathandaza. Amen.
Cela sweet note ize ngaphambili ndawonye neintonation ngokukhawuleza bazoma apha ngaphambili. wandithatha la yena uJesu nobube mna wandithatha la wandithatha la yena wandibeka ewe uJesu nobube ele uJesu lo unobubele ngambi uJesu nobube uJesu lo unobubele ngambi uJesu nobube wandithatha la wandithatha la ena wandibeka ena uJesu nobube wandithatha la wandithatha la ena wandibeka ena uJesu uJesu nobube ele uJesu ye nobube ngambi uJesu nobube ele uJesu lo nobube ngambi unobube intonation yena wandithatha. Where is intonation? Wandithatha la yena wandibeka ewe uJesu nobube ele wandithatha la wandithatha la yena wandibeka lana ewe uJesu nobube ele uJesu lo unobube ngambi unobube uJesu ye unobube ngambi uJesu nobube ele. Intonation. Wow. Yes.
Jesus is coming again. 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 Jesus is coming
Simlinde simqaphele ngoba uJesu simlinde simqaphele ngoba uJesu uyeza nama simlinde simqaphele ngoba uJesu uyeza nama simlinde simqaphele ngoba uJesu uyeza uyeza da dum dum uyeza
Uyesu uyeza
uyeza
aphamani
da-da-dum-dum.
Uyesu uyeza
uyeza
Uyesu uyeza
Uyeza.
Salalungisani
Da-da-dum-dum.
Uyesu uyeza
Uyeza.
Uyesu uyeza
Uyeza.
Hayibo phaphamani
Da-da-dum-dum.
Uyesu uyeza
Uyeza. uyeza da-da-dum-dum. uyeza uyeza da-da-dum